So then we are back with more understandings from the time where then we are studying the areas of Abraham and his first son Ishmael from the Holy Quran. And this section of the scripture then comes from the writings of the first son and those involved with him recording the holy instructions regarding then the son of Abraham and what he had gone through. And there is a section of the Quran, very important reading, because it gives us then a whole lot more understanding of what went on in terms of then Abraham and the son that was nearly sacrificed. We understand later Abraham then had another dream where he had then a vision while understanding what would be of this son of his. So then the Creator was explaining what would be his son centuries later and what would take place with him, and then a spiritual link was then given via Abraham. So then we understand Abraham had taken then a journey on the top of the mountain, and then he had taken his son with him. However, this was a dream. And the Holy Quran gives us this understanding because when we read from 105 stated then, "Thou hast already completed the vision. Thus certainly do we reward those who do right or properly." So this gives us then the proper understanding of Ibrahim when he was then up on a mountain and he had his son with him, and then it was obviously a spiritual link of then linking up the spiritual areas of the future. And then we later, when we read, for instance, an example of the Yitzhayelic lineage of Ezekiel, for instance, regarding then the understandings of the capital of the new world, and then what Yohanan had then the vision in the holy city regarding then the stick given to both of them. Both had a spiritual understanding. So then regarding Abraham, or then at the moment understanding him as Ibrahim, then the understanding was very clear. Thou hast already completed the vision. So then it was a purely vision. As we understand, when the angels showed up to him earlier, it was a vision. And we are already establishing the proper understanding of these factors via then the Holy Quran, much more precise than the Yitzhayelic lineage. The Yitzhayelic lineage up to this point is extremely fabulized, and it is very twisted. But the Quran is absolutely pure so far. We understand many areas of the life of Ibrahim, and those are very true. So then the Creator wants us diligently to search the scripture, and the scripture of Quran so far it is absolutely true. Though in any document we should then be very cautious, very considerate, yet the Creator said then, be very diligent then when you study it. Studying diligently, because we recognize the steps of formation from the patriarchs. We understand then the recordings of the patriarchs, they were recorded much later. because then we are then confronted with an oral transfer of holy information from generation to generation, and then later those understandings were then recorded. So then when a person is not part of the vision and the vision is not explained, then later generations, they have a tendency of understanding a vision as a natural fact. It doesn't mean that we are discrediting the existing scripture. It's not the point. But being diligent means then we scrutinize properly. And so far the Quran has showed us very precisely, thou hast already completed the vision. Thus certainly do we reward those who do right. And properly said, because then obviously those who do properly, they are rewarded. So when we're speaking of being rewarded, we are speaking of being recognized, is it not? It is speaking of recognition. So linking up with the time when then the angels showed up to Abraham or Ibrahim, we understand that then Ibrahim wanted to prepare a meal. So based upon those who do have the proper understanding, so far the Quran is very precise, so then we can trace the understanding of the absolutely importance of hospitality generations earlier, before then the Quran was recorded, versus then the actual fact of the vision itself, where we can easily find in the Creator recognizing the hospitality of Ibrahim. So those areas should be studied. So then we are diligent without discrediting any part of it, because it is recognizable Ibrahim was very hospitable, and we also recognize generations later when the recordings were placed on parchment or then on skin, then as they were recording, they were then involved with an absolutely must be hospitable. And any person coming in the presence of those would be treated as such. But then comes the understanding of the vision. So then we must separate ourselves from what is then reality of the everyday living, being hospitable, versus then the objective of the showing of the vision, and what was then the objective of the vision. In many cultures these days, the objective of people coming and being treated properly is the objective in itself. Being hospitable and asking how they are and where they are coming from, where they are going. Those became the objectives of themselves. And then when we understand the vision from heaven, we understand, and obviously then was recognized his hospitality. But what was the objective? They were showing then what would be the son of Ibrahim. Then we are recognizing more areas of this Holy Quran, and we can then update our data. Because thus far there is no question. The Quran is much more precise than the Israelic lineage. And then later going to explore more of these, because there is a set of notes from those very important studied prophets, where we can read their understandings and then being part of it. Very important. For instance, the viewpoint of Katir, and then many others. So please stay tuned. Much more coming up.